when we visited you at Osteria, you were making cheese. You had the cheese bar there, and you were making cheese, crafting cheese every night. Are you
Right. No, because that Osteria is not open and the pizzeria is not open. Just Mozza to Go is open.
So, well, let's welcome everybody back to join us. I'm Peter Reinhardt, and this is Pizza Talk, presented by Pizza Quest. And we're with Nancy Silverton, part 2. And if you missed our first segment with Nancy, it's already posted, so go look at it. It's everywhere. It's on our site. It's on Instagram. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube. And so we're reaching more and more people, through these Pizza Talk interviews with folks, because we're really trying to find out, number one, what some of the great luminaries in the pizza and artisan foods industry are doing during this sort of, I call it the COVID age, and everybody's having to pivot and figure out what they're doing. Nancy, in part 1, told us a little bit about the pivots that Pizzeria Mozza has made and what's open, what's closed. We were talking about your new place, Key Spacca, where you can get pizza to go, and that's still going.
It's like 8 years old or something. But
new to me, because I haven't been there. And then, but now it's now also a restaurant, and so we got totally consumed with our passion for focaccia col formaggio di Recco, focaccia with cheese from the town of Recco, basically is what it is, which is really kind of like a cheese strudel that's crisp on the outside and the other side, and it's like butter when you bite into it, like mozza butter,
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a great description. So we're not going to talk too much more about that. Go back to that segment, and also, please, if you're watching, go back to the webisodes we filmed at the Pizzeria Mozza and at Osteria Mozza 10 years ago, and you'll get to see us doing some sampling with Nancy. We'll meet Matt Molina, her chef de cuisine, who is now running his own place. Is Triple Bean the place that Matt's running?
Yeah, so Hippo is his restaurant. It's on the same. They share a little courtyard. So it's Hippo is the restaurant, and the pizza is Triple Beam. And there's actually 2 locations: Highland Park and Eagle Rock.
Oh, great! So that's Roman style. So we talked a little bit about Roman style, which we see as maybe one of the big coming trends.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking with some people who are doing that style. We talk about Detroit style pizza.
Yeah.
And Nancy told us she told us about a place in LA that she's heard of, Apollonia. Is it Apollinaire? Apollinaire.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna try to track down Dustin from there and see if we can get him to come on sometime. But let's talk a little bit. I'd like to go back a little bit and kind of catch people up, because almost everybody knows who you are now. Yeah, they've seen you on Netflix and they've seen you on PBS and on Top Chef. You're everywhere, and you've been a leading, I would say, a thought leader in the culinary community for a long time now. We didn't meet back then, but we were living, I think, in Sonoma County. I think you went to college at Sonoma State, right?
Yeah, good memory.
So I'd love to maybe get just very quick, like a little breeze through how you went from being a college student in Sonoma State, not even knowing what you were studying, and then kind of sucked into the culinary revolution that was happening in Northern California.
Right.
That then catapulted you down to Southern California.
I just first have to ask you a question. Did you ever used to eat a brass-ass pizza?
I'd heard of it, but I never know. No, I never got to eat
wondering.
Was that in
Santa Rosa?
In Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I lived, but I think it was closed by the time I got my bakery going up in Santa Rosa.
Okay.
I don't remember that one. But,
so real quickly, I fell in love with an adventure winemaker, actually, who still lives in now lives in Napa, but he was a cook at the college, at Sonoma State College dormitory. I told him how much I'd love to cook, which I had never cooked before. I come work in the kitchen, and I started to work in the kitchen, and I just fell in love with the process of food, because I was at that time making things like, I was the vegetarian cook, so I was making lentil loaf and melted cheese sandwiches and peanut butter and sunflower seeds, whatever the hippies at Sonoma State wanted to eat then, right?
This is beginning to sound a little bit like the Ruth Reichel. There's a parallel story here.
It was very similar.
And it all starts with falling in love with somebody, right?
It starts with falling in love. It ends up finding a passion. And I just loved using my hands. And I think I loved just the feedback. When somebody looked at me and said, I felt loved, you know? So with that, I dropped out of school in my senior year, and I ended up working for free at a restaurant in Marin County called 464 Magnolia.
Ah.
And, it was run by a college-educated husband and wife team. They were self-taught. They cooked out of cookbooks. They were interesting and smart. And it was very much like the community at Chez Panisse, I think, without them even knowing Chez Panisse. So everything was sourced locally. My job was to pick up the ducks at Petaluma Processing Plant in Petaluma. They bought only California wines. We used to go up to Napa and Sonoma when it was not even a thing. The menu changed every night. And while I was there, I signed up to go to cooking school at the Cordon Bleu in London. I didn't even know that there was a cooking school in the United States, the Culinary Institute in Hyde Park, which is fantastic. I thought, I want to go to cooking school, I have to go to Europe. I went to cooking school. I came back. I moved back to Los Angeles, and I got my first job at Michael's Restaurant in Santa Monica, which was the restaurant of the time.
That was a phenomenal place.
Yep, Jonathan Waxman was the chef. And that's where I really honed my skills. I was put into the pastry department, and I didn't want to be there, but that was the only opening in the kitchen. I started working with a crazy, brilliant, young pastry chef, and I learned to love pastry. I didn't bake bread there. I did brioche. That was it. Quickly, I went on to Spago. I was the opening pastry chef at Spago with Wolfgang Puck. I was actually there twice. I was there for 2.5 years, went to New York for a year, came back to Los Angeles to look for my own restaurant, came back to Spago, and that's where I started to make bread a little bit, but I didn't really know that much about it, and started to look for my own restaurant with my then husband, Mark Peel. And I always knew that if I found a place that was big enough to accommodate a bakery, I wanted to make bread to complement the food at our restaurant, because at that time, there weren't the neighborhood bakeries to buy a good loaf of bread. Found a location, taught myself how to bake, and sort of the rest is really history. You know, I was lucky, I have to say, because I was at the right place at the right time. You know, had I opened my bakery / restaurant today, obviously the competition would have been a lot tougher. But this was something so new to Los Angeles, the idea of a bakery cafe, the idea of a bakery that made the loaves of bread that I wanted to make. It was all so new. We're talking 1989 it opened.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting how, I always tell people that you sort of have to follow the breadcrumbs. You can't always, you have an idea of where you want to go, but sometimes you have to follow the breadcrumbs to where they lead you. And in this case, you got led into pastry, maybe unexpectedly, and It opened up this whole other world, which then opened up another bigger world, and you just kept gobbling it up and assimilating it, and then the creativity kicks in.
Yep. I'm a true believer that everybody is born with a path, and it's following that path. So I mean, if I didn't go to Sonoma State College and fell in love with a Zen Buddhist, I didn't even know what Buddhism was then, right? And decided to work in the kitchen. I mean, all that.
You were in the right place at the right time.
I was already in my DNA, and I actually, just being open to it. It's like you said, and I think it's a beautiful way to say it. Follow those breadcrumbs, right? Because they're going to lead you somewhere.
Exactly. And sometimes, the path may zigzag, but eventually you find the way.
Yeah.
And it leads you, if you stay true to it
right.
And essentially fulfill the opportunities that are right in front of you in that moment, they lead to other opportunities.
100%.
Well, so that brought you into, and Campanile was, again, a groundbreaking restaurant.
Right.
And I remember that's where I first met you in person, was there, because I had just done my first bread book. Somebody took me there to meet you. You had opened the bakery side, and then the next time we, connected was when you had expanded La Brea Breads into a much bigger operation, and we're basically serving the whole city and the area of LA.
World.
And then the world. Yeah, I mean, it went from this to that,
Yeah.
And so again, one thing leading to another, and then a few years later, all of a sudden, I'm hearing about this amazing pizzeria in LA that you were doing, Pizzeria Mozart. And when we started filming for Pizza Quest, that was our very first stop. You were the first place we went to. And, again,
thank you.
You were talking earlier in our earlier episode about life-changing pizza at the Focaccia col Formaggio in Recco, kind of like it was an aha moment.
Right.
And I think what you were doing with pizza was, again, you had taken the idea of pizza that everyone's loving, and Pizzeria Bianco had already kind of gotten on the map, and you said, okay, how can I do it, stay true to me, my vision, and then take it to another level? And I think you really pulled that off, which is, those pizzas are conversation stopping pizzas, and the whole restaurant was great. So anyway, that's when we filmed, and then in between I get to see you here and there, and then I see you on television a lot, so the world has opened up. What are you doing any cooking at home at all during this period?
So I did at the beginning. So I when Los Angeles restaurant, the Los Angeles restaurant world essentially came to a halt, meaning dine-in restaurants, on March 15th. And orders from our mayor. We could food operations that had a to-go option where food could be picked up or delivered. That was okay to stay open, but all dine-in restaurants shut down. So I luckily had that to-go component already established. So I shut down the pizzeria and I shut down Osteria, but I had my mozza to go, and I shut down Kisbaka. And that we were able to operate for 2 weeks. Unfortunately, during that time, I did contract the virus.
Oh, you did? You got it.
So I did, but thank you, stars, 0 symptoms. I only went in for testing because somebody that worked there was tested positive, and I knew that I needed to be tested because I was serving food. I had to shut everything down, and everything shut down for about a month. And we just reopened 2 weeks ago with a more expanded menu. And reopening was like opening a restaurant again. All the disorganization, all the yelling and screaming, all the things that go wrong when you first open a restaurant, and I just feel like after 2.5 weeks, we're finally getting over that hump. But I am there every day, involved and supervising and tweaking recipes, because let's be honest, food in a box is not the same as food on a plate.
Right.
You've got to make the changes so that hopefully when the food arrives at somebody's home, it's as good as it can be, knowing that it's in a box, closed up, so that's what I'm really working on. When we did close and I was home for a month, I did cook at home, and I don't ever cook in Los Angeles. I have a beautiful little house, tiny little house in a beautiful little town in Italy, and I'm there every summer, and I cook there all the time, every day, and I have huge parties. But in Los Angeles, I don't cook at my house, except for backyard parties where I use my grill, and they're really simple parties. But I don't cook indoors in my house because I have got the restaurant,
Right.
So I did cook. I braised lamb shoulder, and I slow grilled lamb leg, and I braised chicken thighs, and I baked tiny marzipan cakes, and I did bake, and I made omelets, and so I did bake, and I did cook more than I had ever for about a month, but I'm not cooking again.
But this leads me to my next question, which is, in the previous segment, you mentioned and you kind of teased us with the fact that you have a new restaurant concept.
Yes, I got to talk about it real quickly because I know that
I think everyone wants to hear about it.
I know everything you want. Yeah, I know you have a lot to talk about, but I am opening up a small concept in a small food court. So the food court is only about 10 operators, and mine will be called Pizzette. So it's a small pizza. I'm opening, so it's in an area in Culver City, which is booming with new office spaces opening up, thousands and thousands, like, Amazon and Sony and, thousands of offices are coming there. Not good, but, huge operations. Anyway, I think the wave of the future are people that go out, bring their food back to their desk, they sit at their computer and they eat. So you can't have a big pizza box, nor do you necessarily want to eat, even though our pizza are smaller than family size, it's still a lot to eat. So these are pizzette, they're small pizza. But the part that I'm really interested or I'm excited about doing is I'm doing stuffed pizzette. But the stuffed pizzette are not going to be calzone, so they're not going to be baked. I'm just taking that baked size of the pizzette and baking it just plain. Then I'm opening it up and using it in familiar terms like a pita. And I'm developing a whole range of sandwiches that you stuff from above. And what I'm excited about is that it's a new way of tasting a sandwich, not new way because we know falafel sandwiches have been around forever and pizza style sandwiches, but using my ingredients in that same format where when you make a traditional sandwich, let's say you're going to make it on a baguette or so, everything is layered uniformly, so every bite tastes the same. And you may like that. Mm-hmm. Or you might like the experience of every bite tasting different because it's stuffed in a different way.
Yeah.
And to me, that's an exciting new way to eat a sandwich because, first of all, you don't get bored. Second of all, you don't want to share it because you don't know what that bite is you're going to miss. But it's going to.
So it's not a shareable food. Stay away. Let me have my sandwich.
And it's not a messy food because it's contained in that shape. So pizzette and stuffed pizzette. That's it.
Oh, I love it. So but you're going to have both a regular pizzette, like a small pizza plus
small pizza plus the sandwich.
So for the stuffed one, you take basically the pizzette dough and bake it with nothing on it, so it puffs up like a pita.
Yeah, I dimple it so it doesn't puff up too high. It's dimpled. But it's opened up and then it's all stuff from above. So it looks like a big sandwich because it's,
Yeah.
But really what's inside the filling would be less than you would eat in a traditional sandwich because let's suppose it's mortadella. It's going to be all rumpled. It's full of air, it takes up volume. But once you eat it, it's not like it has a half a pound of meat in there.
Well, and what you described about each bite being different, I call those flavor bursts. I think that I'm a big fan of foods that have flavor bursts, and so a lot of what makes a sandwich so popular and such a perfect food, just like the way the pizza is a perfect food, is that there are these bursts every bite, whether it's the crust, whether it's the topping, whether it's the cheese.
And things are squirted, kind of squirted in or spooned in, So let's suppose it's a tuna sandwich that has, braised tuna and it has egg in there, but it'll also have spoonfuls of black olive tapenade and other spoonfuls of a caper and anchovy mayonnaise, everything you want to eat with the tuna sandwich, but not totally incorporated. So you're going to have that bite at the tapenade and then later on the caper and anchovy mayonnaise and then some egg and then some tuna. So
that's really
so you'll have to come visit me there when you get on that.
I guess we don't know because of the current situation when you can open places. Do you have an opening date in mind?
Well, you know what? It can open because it's going to be to go. And the only reason it's not open and it was supposed to open like February-ish, March, is only because construction is always behind. It's been worked on along with the rest of the food court. And the food court, by the way, it's going to be called Citizen. And it's in, and that was the name of the newspaper that the building, that was the town newspaper, And,
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, what else is cool about this idea is that it's very scalable. Once you've got that template, you can do this in airports, you can do it in...
Oh, you got it.
You're already way ahead of me on that one, I'm sure. Yeah, but it is the perfect, kind of airport. It's kind of like what Rick Bayless did with his Frontiera sandwiches with the...
You got it.
Yeah. I can't wait for that to happen. I can't wait for my local airport to, happen as well.
Yeah.
But are you did you have to create a special dough for that, Nancy?
Yeah, you know what? I did. It's interesting. I took my pizza dough and I changed my pizza dough. to accommodate the sandwich. And now I have a new pizza dough that you wouldn't notice. You wouldn't say, have you changed the dough? But I did. I added some spelt to it, and I added some olive oil to it. I need it to be a little bit softer. And I also added rice flour, so it's a little bit more extensible.
Wow. Yeah.
So my new pizza dough, which I purposefully did not want anybody to say, hey, the dough doesn't taste like it did, but it makes it more usable for the pizzette compote. And I don't have to have two doughs.
So like what would be a typical dough ball weight for either the sandwich or the pizzette? How big is the dough itself?
So my dough weight for my pizza is, pizza meaning at Pizzeria Mozza, is 7 ounces. My dough weight for pizzette for both the sandwich and the dough is 4 ounces.
4 ounces, yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So it's really a personal size pizzette or sandwich. Well, I would love to keep talking for hours and hours. If we can get you back, if you don't get swamped with all the other things as the world's reopening, we'd love to have you come back for a future episode, Nancy. And
love it. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. You know what? It's so great to talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about.
Well, I think it's more about sharing the passion. People who we love the same things, you know, and you just and look, you execute.
We all know there's lots of podcasts and things out there where there's the interviewer is, you know, as well read and everything, doesn't live it. But see, you live pizza, I live pizza, and so we can talk pizza.
Exactly. And we're going to post on pizzaquest.com for anyone who is watching it there or comes over to our website. We'll post the link to those pans, the copper pans that Nancy talked about in the previous segment. Also, when you come to pizzaquest.com, please sign up if you haven't already signed up for our mailing list. If you sign up, that way you'll get notices every time we post a new schedule, because we have a lot of really interesting people that will be posting new episodes 3 to 4 times a week, all through the summer and into the fall. So we'd love to have you all come back and join us on Pizza Talk. And Nancy Silverton, thank you so much for being with us today.
So fun.
We'll look forward to the opening of Pizzette and for all the other future projects that you do. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.